A very good evening to you. It's called white flight, but is it happening here in London? The phrase refers to white people leaving cities because they don't like immigrants settling in their neighbourhood. Well, BBC London has obtained new figures which do show rapid change in London's ethnic makeup. We've also been speaking to people who say white flight is happening, but are they right? In a moment we'll be discussing the issue, but first Gareth Furby has this report.
Are white people leaving parts of London? Trevor Phillips from the Equality and Human Rights Commission thinks they may be.
Virtually every big city, there are places where different kinds of people feel uncomfortable, whether that's Asians in so-called white areas or white people in so-called black areas. We know that white flight is accelerating.
So is Trevor Phillips right? Well, the census doesn't tell us much because it's too out of date. So we asked the government for some statistics it does collect every year on the population of London's primary schools.
Looking back 5 years, in every borough, the percentage of white British children has fallen. Across inner London, on average, under 22% of primary school children are white British. In Hackney and Tower Hamlets, it's under 15%. In Newham, under 12%.
Of course, this doesn't prove white flight. It may just be down to different birth rates, for example. But it does show change in London, and nowhere it seems may be changing faster than here.
The average fall across London since 2003 is just over 6%. In Barking and Dagenham, it's almost 3 times that figure.
I was 7 when the war broke out in 1939. This was soon after I got married, taken in 1953 in Malvern Drive. I was very happy. We were all very happy.
But after a lifetime here, Norma, who doesn't want to give her full name, is ready to leave.
Because Barking is not what Barking was. Nearly all the shops are foreign.
Why can't you mix with different cultures?
I do. I have mixed with different cultures. I mean, I've worked with some of these people and they've been absolutely lovely. But that doesn't mean to say I want to live cheek by jowl with them and slowly but surely find that I'm the only person left in an area where everybody else has moved away from, and that's what's going on.
The Isle of Wight is where Alf Young now lives.
They want to take over. That does annoy me.
He's left behind a lifetime in Dagenham.
The Indians, the Poles and all that all turned up, and they just took over. It wasn't Dagenham as I knew Dagenham years ago.
What do you mean?
Even in the football crowd, the nights have been pulled, seen it in the pub. I don't want to know.
More and more children moving into the schools who cannot speak a word of English.
Tony Richards is a former journalist and qualified barrister. He's staying in Barking, but wants something done.
And there's so many people who are in the process of selling their houses and moving. And I know a good many people who have moved, and I'm still in touch with them.
And they're white?
Oh yes, they're all, white British, yes.
But one expert on population movements says London has always been changing.
London attracts people in and then it redistributes them within London. It redistributes them, some of them away from London.
The prediction from the Greater London Authority is that by 2026, pretty much 40% of London's population will be from a black, Asian or minority ethnic group. Rapid change that will face both supporters and opponents. Gareth Furby, BBC London News.
Well, joining me here is Danny Sriskandarajah from the Institute of Public Policy and Research, and also Sir Andrew Green from Migration Watch. Welcome to you both. We heard some strong views and concerns there. One thing that's clear, Danny, is that the overall trend in the change of the makeup of London. Are you surprised by those figures?
I'm not surprised, because there's no denying that there is a lot of population change, and what's happening across the UK is probably most acute in a place like London. But I think there are 2 very important things to note here. One is that yes, there are some people moving, and yes, there are people, like we've just heard, who are unhappy about the racial mix-up of places that they're living in, but the evidence suggests that what's really driving some of this movement is not to do with race necessarily, but to do with class and socio-economic status. That young people with families want to move out of London, older people don't like to live in crowded places and they're moving out to the home county. So I don't think it's race that's necessarily driving it. And the second point is that this has been happening in London for a long, long time, and not only has London survived, but it's thrived. London's success is built on the fact that it is a diverse place.
But one of those issues, Sir Andrew, is obviously the rate of change, and in some areas like Barking and Dagenham, it's particularly acute. If we just take some of those figures, the number of white children in primary schools has gone down from 70% 4 years ago to just over 50%. You know, we've heard that that is a natural rate of change. Should we be concerned?
Well, I think that people are concerned, and I think we should be concerned. Yes, I think Trevor Phillips is right. There clearly is white flight. Migration Watch has done some work on this, and we found a close link between the number of people who leave a particular borough and the degree of ethnicity. So there's no question that there is a link. Of course, there are many reasons why...
Link. Well, they might be correlated,
well,
but there's no causal link.
There are many reasons why people leave London. But the basic reason for this change, this very substantial change, is that the government have lost control of our borders. And the flow of immigrants into the country as a whole, many of whom come to London, has gone up 4 times.
So can I just be clear, Sir Andrew, you're saying there is white flight and that cause is immigration?
I'm saying there is white flight, that immigration is a factor, probably, but there are many other reasons, as Danny says, why people leave London. But if you correlate the two, if you look at where people have gone from and the change in the ethnicity, there is a link between the two.
This is a very complex process, and to reduce it to something about race and calling it white flight either means you've misunderstood the complexity and the various reasons why people move, or you're trying to misrepresent it and make this about race.
No, I don't think so. I mean, you have a point. It is very complex, and these numbers in particular are not terribly strong. But it is clear that it is one element. And the other thing that is clear is that the reason that the whole picture is changing is because of the very large scale of immigration. That is obvious.
Let me just say, one of the interesting points is to distinguish, as I think you alluded to, Danny, is between race and immigration. Because one of the views that we've heard a lot, and that's shared by both the indigenous population and British people who are from different ethnic backgrounds, is that they feel has the time come now for a limit on immigration?
I don't think so. I think we've just been through a period of economic boom where we've needed workers, and naturally we've had workers. But there were periods, for example, in the 1980s, when the UK and indeed London were losing large numbers of people, and we were talking and being worried about population decline.
That was a long time ago. I think there's absolutely no question that the government have lost control of immigration. The public want to see it dealt with, and they're absolutely right.
OK. Gentlemen, thank you both very much indeed.